Welcome to the Lovers Lounge podcast, where we talk to experts and other guests on topics related to love, relationships, and sex. I'm your host, Tina Love, and on this episode, we have licensed clinical social workers DeAndrea Blaylock Johnson, Adrianne MArtin, Rafaella Smith-Fiallo, and also we have licensed marriage and family therapist Dr. Lexx James. Welcome to the show, ladies. Welcome.
Hi.
Yes, hello, hello. Yes, welcome, welcome.
Hey,
Uh,
glad to be here.
yes, I am glad to have you ladies on the Lovers Lounge podcast. So, before we start, I just gave your titles, but I'd like each of you to share just a little bit more about yourselves. So, DeAndrea, if you'll start, just introduce yourself to the audience and what you do.
Sure. My name is DeAndrea Blaylock Johnson. Like Tina said, I am a licensed clinical social worker and sexuality and relationship therapist in the St. Louis region. And I have a private practice in coastal sex therapy where I work with individuals and those in all types of relationships, work towards our self-defined goals.
All right, great. And then Adrian.
Hi, I'm Adrianne MArtin. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I am with A New Day Therapy. It's a private practice located in the Richmond Heights area. I have studied emotionally focused therapy and dialectical behavior therapy, and I combine those two therapies in order to work with high conflict couples.
All right. And you're in Richmond Heights, Missouri, then. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Richmond Heights, Missouri. Is that right?
Richmond Heights, yes.
Yes.
Missouri.
All right.
Sorry about
That's okay. We got listeners listening from all over the country, all over the world, actually. So we want to make sure they know where you are. Rafaella?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Rafaella Smith-Fiallo. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker and sex therapist. I specialize in relationship, sex, and trauma therapy, and I love to talk about pleasure politics, liberation psychology, body work, and the use of combining our powerful thoughts and how they can interact with our desires as a way of changing our individual and our collective sense of power and liberation. I am also based here in St. Louis, Missouri, and licensed in Nevada as well.
All right. And then Lex.
Hi. It's nice to be here with y'all. So my name is Dr. Lexx James. I run the Institute for Sexuality and Intimacy, and unlike my amazing host of therapist friends, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, which means I treat people from a systems perspective. I help couples basically build, maintain, and perpetuate intimacy. And then I also work with professional organizations to decenter and decolonize systemic oppression and integrate reproductive justice into their work, as well as teaching across a couple of universities for future sexologists and budding sex therapists.
All right. Well, that sounds very good, very good. And we're going to hear a lot more about this because you have an event coming up, ladies, all four of you. It's called The Spark, a virtual brunch series for couples. So, DeAndrea, can you just kind of introduce the event overall and tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. So we decided a while ago, actually, to do an in-person conference because all of us come with our own ideas and ways of working with couples that we know that could definitely benefit a lot of people. However, with the world shutting down, we shifted gears and wanted to make sure that we were able to still provide these workshops and these ideas to those in relationships so that they could benefit. So every Sunday in September, I like the lyrics from Outkast, "We got you falling harder than the Sunday in September." But it's us. We got you falling harder than the Sunday in September. And every Sunday in September at noon, we will be presenting each one of us on our topic or our expertise. And every Sunday is going to be different, but everyone works together so that we can help those in relationships reignite that spark that may have gone missing.
All right. And I'm really glad that you all have decided. It sounds like at first you were going to do it, in person, and then COVID happened, and then you decided to make it virtual, which is wonderful. I'm hearing of so many different conferences that are going on and we're not letting COVID-19 stop us. So that's really good. So each of you have this emphasis, right? And so I want to start out then with September the 6th. That's the first session. Um, it's Rafaella. So Rafaella, can you tell us a little bit about it? So we want to hear what's going to happen on the 6th with couples.
Absolutely. I also just wanted to say, DeAndrea, I love that you mentioned the song lyrics because I had a play on Reunited, and it feels so good with Reignited, and it feels so good. So I'm glad that we on the same page. We're on the same page.
Right on, right on.
I like that.
Yes. So on the first Sunday of September, we are going to be coming off of the theme of Labor Day, right? And hopping right into prioritizing pleasure and playfulness. And this is so important because so often in our lives as adults, we forget to play. We're actually told that playfulness is immature, that there is no room for that in our lives after a certain age. We swap it out for paying bills, taking care of other people, being stressed. We actually have to squeeze in vacation time so that way we can have a little time for ourselves and our families and for our lovers. And so during this workshop, I really want to talk about how to be more curious about ourselves and our partners' fantasies, centering playfulness as a way to not only relax, but to ignite that spark and that desire between yourself and your lover. And also talking to folks about arousal and desire, because so often in, sex therapy and couples therapy work, sometimes this can be a mismatch between who wants it and who doesn't want it, how much, how often. There's a lot of questions about what's normal in terms of frequency in a sexual relationship.
Right.
So I think it's a topic that builds off of one another when we are talking about how to bring more pleasure back into our relationship and into the bedroom by having a clear understanding about how arousal, desire work, how getting in the mood is started, and then topping it off with being curious with one another and identifying some fantasies. So that is what I'm bringing. Yes, that is what I'm bringing. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time, but it's also going to be rooted in answering some questions that I think a lot of us have when we start getting into long-term relationships.
So couples will then walk away with some tools that they can use with each other to sort of spice things up, and help them to articulate their fantasies. Would that be what you're going to be helping them with?
Absolutely. We are going to use some tools during, and absolutely, I always assign homework. So their homework is going to be use those tools at home, in the car, in the kitchen, wherever you find yourself, right? We don't want to limit. We don't want to limit our sexual prowess. So we definitely want to make sure people are leaving with things they can use in their day-to-day and build off of the information and activities that we're going to offer them during the session.
All right. So if you got a couple that one person is like always ready, right? Always. And the other person, not really. Okay. So they just seem to be running up against a little bit of a brick wall. They just can't seem to get it together as far as, that routine of, intimacy and sex. And, one person is feeling like we just never do. And then, the other person feels like we're just doing it way too much, and it might still be like every 3 months. So what do you think what would you say if a couple were to ask you, what's a healthy routine for sex and intimacy as a couple? And other ladies all chime in, not just Rafaella, but what do you all think? What would you say?
Do you want me to start off?
Yes, go ahead, Rafaella.
Yes. So this is such a good question because if you go on Google and you just type in, like, how often are you supposed to have sex with your partner, or if you're married, or whatever the case is, there are so many different answers. And based on research, the satisfaction that couples have in their sexual relationship and their relationship overall varies based on that couple's desires, right? And so it's first to understand that it's not like having sex every single day or multiple times a day. It's not that your relationship is terrible if you have sex 3 times a month. It is, how do you identify what is pleasurable and desirable for you individually? How does that match up with your partner? Come up with something that can, meet in between if that's possible. But also you have to look at other factors that might be influencing desire, right? It's not just, I don't want to have sex, and so you don't find me desirable, or something like that. There are so many other things related to our physical wellness, our emotional wellness, our mental health, things happening in the world like COVID.
Yeah.
That's very, very stressful. A lot of uncertainty is around that.
Right.
There could be differences in kinks and fetishes and desires, anxiety around performance,
Oh,
right?
gosh,
There could be
yes.
pain involved. So many other things that can really impact why we are not having sex that we have to talk about. And what I find is that we're not having these conversations with our partners. We're doing a lot of assuming, and we're also doing a lot of hoping that it will just get better. Like, oh, this can't last forever. It'll get better over time.
Right.
Both of you are thinking that, no one's talking about it. And then we find ourselves, it's been a month, it's been 3, it's been 6, and now it's been a year, right?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so I am going to say that and pass the mic.
Yeah. See if somebody else, anybody have something they want to add to what Rafaella said. What would you say to this couple that feels like, what is healthy for us as far as our sex life? Are we doomed because we don't have sex, every month or every week or whatever?
This is DeAndrea. One thing that I often invoke is when I remember being in elementary and middle school and reading these choose your own adventure books. And then it was where you were able to read up to a certain part and then kind of decide where you want to go. And the reason why I invoke it is because a lot of times, like Rafaella said, you'll Google or you'll ask other people and you'll get so many varied responses on like what's the appropriate amount or what this is supposed to look like. We're in relationships. I think it's important to allow for some creativity for making things that work for your relationship. It may look different for you than it does for your friends or anyone else, but just as long as what you come up with your partner is healthy and it works for you, then you're able to choose your own adventure in your own way of relating, in your own way of dealing with that.
All right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, DeAndrea, speaking of DeAndrea, you're going to be doing a session September the 13th, and you're going to be helping couples incorporate sexuality and spirituality. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about this segment and how this is going to work?
Sure. So my workshop is, like you said, about incorporating spirituality and sexuality. I think that specifically within Christianity, we've done a great job of separating the two. Mm-hmm. There is not a lot of conversation of having certain ways of incorporating spirit within sexuality because it's been so separated and demonized. And so what I'll be doing is exploring different ways to bring the two together. A lot of the different things that we do have a spiritual component, and sex is one of those things that definitely can. And so in addition to exploring the different ways into incorporating spirituality into your sexual practices, we'll also be looking at the power of ritual, what the different rituals that we do throughout the day, how they can help us, and then some of the homework that will be given will be to figure out different ways to create your own ritual with your partner.
All right. Well, when I think of spirituality, and I think we've talked about this. DeAndrea's been on the show, by the way, audience and ladies on the line here. She's been on the show a couple of times, and so the listeners love DeAndrea. She's one of the top listened to people that have been on the podcast. But anyway, we talk a little bit, or we have anyway, DeAndrea, about how sometimes when a person is connected very closely with their spirituality as far as church and religion, and oftentimes people think, well, I'm saved, or I'm connected to God, and so I can't really use sex toys, or masturbation it's a sin, or all these kinds of things go, people think, right, in their marriages and relationships, and so they kind of just want to do the same thing over and over again and kind of stay safe, as so to speak. So what do you think about that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that some denominations may be a bit more, they're a bit too nosy in people's bedrooms than others, where they actually try to legislate the specific types of positions that
Yeah.
are appropriate, and and I think that, and specifically what I see, whether it's in practice or just in conversations with friends who have endured bad theology, it's just the idea that you're taught that sex is bad until you get married, but the problem is that there's no magical switch when you get married that tells you that exploring my sexuality with my partner is a good thing. Whether that is using sex toys or trying these various positions. And so what I work on a lot of times is dismantling these beliefs and then
Good.
coming up with our own sexual ethics that makes sense, that still follows within the faith, but where we understand that if my body is fearfully and wonderfully made, like it
Okay.
says in Psalm 139, then an expression of sexuality where I'm able to experience pleasure, that's also of God. So
Okay.
really bringing those two things together, spirituality and sexuality, understanding that our sexuality is a gift from God and we have the ability to explore it
All right.
and the freedom to explore it.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. Anybody else have any
Come
comments?
on, right.
Look, don't get me started, girl. I'm gonna start running. But is there anybody else that has any comments or something they'd like to add? Yeah. All right then.
This is
Doctor. Oh,
this is Rafaella. I just wanted to
yeah.
emphasize,
Yeah.
um, DeAndrea, you said there is no magic switch, and that is so true. And so often we are taught or preached to about like saving yourself for marriage and all these things are a sin. And then I've worked with folks who, even after doing it, quote unquote, the right way, waiting and getting married, still felt so much shame
Mm-hmm.
with their partner because you can't just erase those messages after it's been drilled into you for however many years, right?
I'm hearing something.
And
I'm not
so,
sure what it is in the back. Okay. I don't know. I don't hear it
and
right now,
so,
but okay.
yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of that because I don't think we really understand how detrimental these messages can be
Yeah.
and how long lasting they are. So thanks so much for saying that.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Mhm.
All right. Now, Dr. Lex, on September 20th, you are helping couples identify ways to resolve conflicts. Now, this is interesting because right now, what I'm hearing is that there are so many couples filing for divorce right now, first of all. Since the whole COVID
Mhm.
19, everything started, the pandemic, there's domestic violence and issues on the rise. So I'm
Mhm.
really, really glad that we're talking about, ways to resolve conflicts and promote closeness because I really feel like at a time like this is exactly, what couples are needing, So please tell us what can couples expect on the 20th?
Well, thank you so much. So, exactly what you said, we are seeing a global increase in divorce rates. And unfortunately, we're also seeing that global increase across domestic violence as well. This course isn't ideal for people that are not in safe relationships physically, emotionally, and mentally. This is for couples who are finding themselves starting to bicker a bit more over simple things.
Yeah.
You didn't take out the trash right. What's the right way to take out the trash? They're finding themselves in the same cycle and pattern of distance, and they want more intimacy. I am seeing a lot of couples now who are also dedicating to themselves to staying together in their relationships, to saying, okay, we're not going to talk about divorce. We're going to figure out how to work this out. I've also seen couples and individuals in couples starting to recommit to their relationships and saying, I've been cheating and I don't want to cheat anymore.
Good.
How do I do that? Because we've been having this conflict and I just can't do it. So in my session, we're going to do some self-learning. Coming right after DeAndrea, there's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We're going to talk about the 4 horsemen of relationships
Uh-huh.
and what comes for your relationship based on a Gottman model. And once we identify those, we're also going to talk about your conflict cycle. What does it look like? How do you look at conflict? Is it an opportunity or is it a threat? And I really want people to look at conflict as opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is an opportunity where I can lean in and listen to my lover and figure out what they need and what they're trying to communicate and support them in this frustration.
This is a time when I can see if they're hurt and if I'm the party that's responsible for their hurt or help them through that hurt. So I really want to build some empathy and compassion and intimacy outside of the physicality, right? So intimacy in where you can take risks with your emotions with me.
Yeah.
You can be safe with me. I will work to be safe, and I want to be safe with you. I want to be able to share my secrets, and I want to be able to share my joy and have you have that joy too by squashing this conflict that we have and being able to resolve it just a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So you're going to find out about yourself in this session and your lover, and you're going to take home some worksheets, because I like a good worksheet. I'm going to admit that. It's easier to think. And you're going to take home some tools that you're going to use on a day-to-day basis, because you're going to get it wrong.
Right.
You only have so much time together. You're going to get it wrong, and you're going to mess up, and you're all going to laugh about it, and then you're going to keep trying at it to get it right and to keep exploring and really figuring out how I get to build with my lover and how we get to be close. And then you're going to argue about it, because that closeness doesn't necessarily feel safe at first. To be like, what is it?
Yeah.
It feels awkward, and I feel a little unsafe. And you argue, and you get a little bit of distance, and then you come back to your level of regular safety. But I'm trying to push you. I want to push you even closer together. I want to push you into each other's arms just a little bit more, to where you're comfortable and you know that that person's there for you without losing yourself.
Right. Oftentimes, do you find that couples, they think if we have conflict, like they just don't want to, some people just don't want to deal with it. Like they just want to, what is that, fight or flight? Like they just don't, they want to avoid it. But really, what I'm learning anyway through this show is that on the other side of the conflict, or on the other side of the problem, is an opportunity to get closer and to improve the relationship. So that's where that communication and everything comes in. And I'm sure you're going to do a lot of sessions on communication, because that's probably key in this, right?
That's what everybody comes to therapy for. That's what everybody comes to therapy for. Everybody says communication.
Right.
And I ask them, I'm like, did you understand what he said? And they'll be like, yes. And I'm like, did you understand what they said? And they're like, yes. I'm like, so you all are communicating, but you're not being honest in your communication.
Is that it?
You're saying, I'm angry at you, or you pissed me off. You're not saying, I was really hurt by that, and I felt real disrespected. Right? Mm-hmm. That's the stuff. That scared me. I was scared you weren't coming back, so I did whatever I could do to try and get you to say it.
Okay.
That's that intimacy. That's that taking that risk of showing you a heart to heart. You understand what they're saying. It's just you're not telling them the full message.
I see.
Because it doesn't feel safe.
So getting people to really tell the full message, to be honest, in that communication is key. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something else that somebody else wants to add to that? Okay. All right. And then on September 27th, Adrianne, you will be helping couples create a playful environment to explore touch, which I love, and attachment patterns that impacts communication. So please, girl, tell us all about this.
Yeah, so this is Adrianne, and I am working on mindful connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have Rafaella at the top of the month talking about being playful, and Lexx at the end of the month talking about communication. We're going to learn how to be mindful of those interactions. One of the things that we notice in DBT is that we often detach or dissociate in some of those really intense moments. And I'm going to help people learn how to stop. That's one of the skills that we use. Learn how to stop, take a beat, get to know themselves, get to know what's going on inside them, so that way they can be there and be more receptive when it comes to communicating. They can apply the communication skills, and I'll use slightly different communication skills than what Lexx is teaching, because she's Batman and I like behavior therapy and emotionally focused therapy. So we're all very similarly related, and we all have slightly different styles. So we will be working on that, and then we'll also work on touch. So the goal for in-person was going to be able to be playful and touch and do a lot of movement work. And so it's going to be figuring out how to do that touch and that movement and build that intimacy through a screen, for me watching and observing, and them learning how to do it in a safe space. And so it's going to be real intriguing how this goes on September 27th. I'm definitely looking forward to challenging people to really be able to look at each other in a different way and to be able to touch and connect with the touch.
All
Because
right.
again, we tell ourselves we don't deserve that pleasure sometimes, and that's what often puts that barrier up. And I really want people to embrace.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when you talk about learning about yourself and those communication patterns, and I'm thinking, so this is going to require people to start really recognizing maybe triggers or things, what happens when certain things, when we talk about certain things, or
Mm-hmm.
something happens, some action happens between the two of us, and maybe I feel it in my chest, or I feel it in my belly, or I there's
Mm-hmm.
something that happens. Is that along the lines of sort of recognizing what happens during that communication period? Is
Yes,
that sort of, yeah, that's what I
that
thought.
was beautifully put. That is mindfulness in itself. Looking at the physiological symptoms that start. There are so many times that we might feel anger in our body before we recognize that is the emotion we're feeling right now, because we're quick to respond and we're not quick to listen to ourselves. And so it's learning how to take that step back and feel it in your body.
Yeah.
Know where it's felt and know what that feeling means, so that way you can proceed with caution and not jump. A lot of times we're just jumping. We're jumping the gun. We're getting to our point, and you're gonna hear me, and we're gonna dial it back a little bit.
Right. Or jump into conclusions about what it is that you think
Oh,
that
oh
person
yeah,
intended, or that kind of thing, right?
all the jumping. Yes,
Yes.
jump into conclusions. We're all good at that.
Right, 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 right. Just, yeah, okay. Anything else? Someone else want to add to that? Um, okay.
So this is Dr. Lex,
Yeah.
and I just love the flow of how we've created this together, right? So we're starting off with the playful and pleasurable
Mm-hmm.
and getting in touch with each other on this joy. And if you take the whole series, you to examine your own spirituality and that connection with sensuality and sexuality. And you get to learn that about your lover as well, or lovers, right? You don't have it at your lovers as long as they know about each other and it's all consensual, so forth. Um, and then I'm talking about those little conflicts that turn into big conflicts in that cycle, and wrapping up with the amazing Adrian with getting into your bodies and also getting back to that pleasure. It's all cyclical and connected,
Mm-hmm.
which is what makes me so excited about this, because it touches on so many parts of our sexuality and how we look at sexuality. We look at it holistically, and we look at that connection all being a part of one another. It's not just something you do with just your body or just your feelings or just your mind or just your spirit. It's all interconnected. And so we get to hit on at least these 4 points across the board.
Yeah, it is. It's really neat. I love the connection. I love the way it flows. You're right. And the way it goes from one Sunday to the next. Okay. So if,
And this is Adrian. I just wanted to jump in. I love that you mentioned how each of it flows, because we called it the spark because we wanted to make sure that we are being really intentional
yeah,
with building that fire, and that each week we're like adding wood to the fire in order to really make something burn and to really
absolutely.
increase that passion and ignite that passion inside that bedroom or inside that relationship. They can remember what they came to the relationship for and why they're coming to us.
I love
It's
it.
really intentional goal setting. I love that. Thanks so much, Beth.
Yes, I love that. That's awesome. I feel like it just builds and builds and builds on top of each other. It really is great. Really is. So, how can couples out there participate? So, what do they have to do to participate? DeAndrea, why don't you tell us?
Sure. Um, you can go to Rafaella's website actually to sign up. It's Healing Exchange, healing spelled traditionally, XCHG. Is that correct, Rafaela?
You got it.
Okay,
Okay,
say it
yes.
again. Say it again.
So, yes. So that's Healing, HealingXCHG.com/offers. And that is where you can sign up to participate in either one or a few or all of the workshops that are available.
All right. And okay, and so they'll find out about any kind of costs that are associated, and the links and all that kind of stuff. You guys will get all that information out to them once they decide they want to do this, right? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So I'd like for just before you ladies leave, leave the Lovers Lounge, I'd like for you to just share with everyone how they can hear more from you guys or get help from you individually, or maybe read some blogs that you write, or maybe there's a book or, something. So, uh, Rafaela, if you can tell us, how can the listening audience hear more from you?
Absolutely. So, again, my website is healingexchange.com. I also welcome you to follow me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with Healing Exchange, spelled the same exact way. I talk a lot about relationships, trauma, and sex. So if you are interested and you are either working through some things and you want some more information, please let's connect.
All right. So that sounds good. And then Adrian.
You can find me at www.newdaytherapy.com. I'm also a New Day Therapy on Instagram. And if you'd like to reach out to me, my number is 636-896-5867.
All right. Great. And then Dr. Lex.
Hi, y'all. So I am the couples clinician, and I am on Instagram and across all social media except for the TikTok thing. I didn't figure that out, so I left that to newer generations. But you can reach out to me at Lex, LEXSSEX like doctor, DOC.com. And I'm also LexX on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then you can find me on the latest episode of Therapy for Black Girls as well. And I talk about sexual shame, couples relationships, and then also shame-free sex ed, specifically with toddlers and adolescents.
All right. Great. Great. And DeAndrea, how can everybody hear from you, and any books you've written or blogs or anything?
All right. So my website is Sankofa, sextherapy.com. Sankofa is spelled as in Sam, Ankofa. So again, that's Sankofa, sextherapy.com. Social media, Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Sankofa Sex. And on YouTube, I am Ask a Sex Therapist. That's where I am. That's how you can find me.
All right. Well, you ladies, it's been a joy. Thank you all so much for coming on. This is it's been so very informative, and I know that couples are going to want to participate in this. And um, thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's fabulous.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yep. All right. So, thank you so much, listeners, for listening to the Lovers Lounge podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the show. And please don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, or leave some comments on the show. You can also reach out to me at the Lovers Lounge at yahoo.com for any show ideas, or you can tell me what you want to hear or whatever you'd like to say. So thanks for listening to the Lovers Lounge podcast, where we talk to experts and other guests on topics related to love, relationships, and sex. I'm your host, Tina Love. And until next time, peace. And please don't forget, love.